Hi, everybody, and welcome back to yet another cracking installment of the Secrets of Fail series right here on the Map Round Show. This is where we're talking about all of our hairy failures and all sorts of things in business, you know, the stuff no one likes to talk about. With us on the line is none other than Ben Weiss, the co-founder and CEO of CoinFlip. Ben, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me here. I'm excited to be here and talk about some failures.
Mate, privilege is all mine. We're going to have a lot of fun today. So let's start with the elevator pitch. So Ben, give our viewers around the world a sense as to kind of what you guys are doing at CoinFlip.
CoinFlip's a global financial services platform powered by crypto. We're most known for our 4,000 plus self-service Bitcoin ATMs across the globe. We also have some digital products as well. Our newest product, a digital platform called Olive, is coming out in April. It's super exciting. If anyone wants to check it out, they can go to join.olive.com.
So what's the difference between join.olive and CoinFlip?
So Olive is a product of CoinFlip, and CoinFlip is our ATMs that we're so well known for, and Olive is our next journey into the digital space. So It's super exciting, and I'm pumped about it.
Yeah, man, sounds good. So what's the problem that you guys are solving with these ATM operators?
So we're making crypto as accessible as possible for everyone. So I started the company with my co-founders over 7 years ago now, when I was 20 in school, because I saw how difficult it was for me, who's pretty technically sophisticated, to purchase cryptocurrency. And I'm like, there's no way my mom is going to figure out how to buy Bitcoin. I mean, she can't even link her bank account to pay an electricity bill. How is she going to buy Bitcoin and, link her bank account to Coinbase? So we thought the ATMs were a great way to make crypto physical and tangible and take it out of the cloud.
Very, very cool, dude. Very, very cool. Right. So let's get into the meat and the potatoes. So what is your story of fail for our audience around the world today, Ben?
So my biggest failure, I would say, was in the beginning of the company, sort of when it was transitioning from a startup to when I was like, oh my God, we have a real company here. I could not get out of the weeds. I was still so much in entrepreneur mode where I was used to just surviving day to day and running through brick walls. I mean, I was sleeping in the office for a while. I was doing work at 2 a.m. and I was just so burned out. And I would say around employee 30, we got to a point where I was working so much, but it felt like we were getting nothing done and the company was at a standstill. And I was like, well, there's no more hours in the day to work any harder. And I realized the company was at a standstill because I wasn't delegating and I wasn't setting up systems and processes. And I think it's actually very difficult for a lot of entrepreneurs to sort of transition to that next stage of the business. But that was a really bad time. I mean, I was sleeping 3-4 hours a night, and I just couldn't figure out how to scale until I realized, hey, I actually have to let go here. I have to bring in seasoned executives. I have to really build teams. And that was when I realized that no one builds a great company by themselves.
Mm-hmm. So what did that experience teach you, Ben?
It taught me that, it taught me how to actually design a company, from the people to the process to building a teams, and how to leverage other people, because I was just so used to solving problems one-off by myself. It'd be Monday and there'd be a fire to put out, so I'd solve it. Then Tuesday, there's a fire to put out, so I'd solve. And guess what? There's always fires to put out. And I actually had to slow down a little bit to go faster and actually get out of the weeds and sort of take a step back and look at the bigger picture and get that perspective. And by slowing down, I was able to, bring in the right people, see what I needed to do, and then have an actual coherent top-down strategy instead of just fighting fire day to day. And it was taking a terrible toll on my health. I mean, I had these terrible eye bags. I wasn't sleeping. And I was just thinking that I could work my way out of this. But I realized that I had to bring in the right people. And I think early on in the company, I always sort of wanted to be the smartest person in the room. But then I realized, as a true founder, as a true CEO, it gets to the point you want to be the least intelligent person in the room, because you're bringing in such skilled qualified people. And when the company gets to a certain point, like you need people there who've done that before. It's just a different skill set, and it's not always intuitive for founders.
No, it's not. And it's funny, I was chatting to a friend of mine. He wrote this here book called Fewer Better. Fewer Better. He was on the show recently. And he writes in his book actually about this idea of go slow to go fast. So it's what you were saying, right? It's kind of like, and I think we all do this. I think it's a universal failure, especially for younger founders who've never built a company before. But I think even now, I mean, I've done like 14 startups, so I'm still in this. I'm the world's most impatient guy. Like, I want the results now. Like, I don't want to wait till tomorrow. Like, today is the day, and the day is the only day you have. So let's get it all done today. So that puts a lot of people under pressure that work with me, but it also puts myself under pressure. And so Howard was writing about this idea of go slow to go fast. So if you assume for a moment that building a successful company, it takes 15 years to become an overnight success. So if you have a 15-year runway, it's a long time, right? So if you're running a long marathon, would you sprint it or would you jog slowly? It's the same idea. And he actually spoke to an ultra marathon guy, and he said, if you want to run an ultra marathon, run slow. And this is the idea, right? We seem to think that it's a sprint, but really it's a marathon.
100%. And even today, I still struggle with this because, like you, I mean, I didn't start 25 companies, but I'm an entrepreneur at heart. So I still want to get in to the weeds every time I see something. Like, there'll be an issue to solve, and I'm like, all right, I know how to solve this. I could solve this in 5 minutes, but it's actually quicker to let the guy you hired to solve it, teach him the process, take an hour to teach him the process. And then guess what? When that comes up next time, you'll never have to even think about it again because your company is a machine now. And, there's that, it's trained, your company has this muscle and now it knows how to achieve that task because you took an hour to teach someone under you how to do it versus just jumping in and doing it within 5 minutes. So like, I found myself jumping in, solving all these issues. And I thought, I'm like, okay, I solved 15 issues today. We're going so fast, but we were actually going so slow because we weren't scaling. And I really like the title of that book. There's something I always say at CoinFlip is I say, do less things better. Because another thing I see entrepreneurs do is sometimes it's like, you just want to do the idea of the day, right? You're an entrepreneur, you have a great idea. And what people don't always get is to have a great company, you have to make trade-offs. What you don't do is just as important as what you do.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you define yourself by what you say no to, not what you say yes to. And I think this is it's the illusion, right? Of, well, if I'm a startup and I'm looking to grow a business fast, I must say yes to everything. I must yes to strategic partnerships, yes to new hires, yes to raising money, yes to, whatever, investing in all these activities or channels or whatever. We must be on every single social media channel, right, Ben? Because Bitcoin is relevant to everybody on earth. It's like, yeah, sure it is, but that's not like it's not possible. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to reach everyone on planet Earth, like, you got to have unlimited budgets. And unfortunately, most startups don't have unlimited budgets. So you have to choose.
100%. You'd rather do a couple of things and be experts or go deep in that than do 100 things, medium, because medium doesn't get the rewards. It's the top 1% that really gets all the rewards. Like, especially tech, it's a winner take all sort of business.
Totally, 100%. So Ben, let's go back to the future. Ben, if you could go back in time, day one of this whole story, what would you do differently?
Oh man, I mean, a lot of things, but number one, I would have just built the company to scale from day one. I would have slowed down and I would have thought of things more systemically and more process oriented. I mean, I was 20, 21, 22. I never ran a business before. I thought I could just solve everything by jumping right in, but I would build the company to scale from day one. And I would also bring in, they don't necessarily have to be seasoned people really early on. Like, you're not going to bring in an exec who spent 25 years probably in a startup. You might not have the budget, but I would just be very intentional about who I hire and what role I give them, because the people are the most important thing in your company. In business, we talk about strategy, we talk about culture, we talk about execution. But the truth is, if you have the right people, that will take care of itself. So right now, like if I was starting a second company, and I'm definitely going to, like my first thought would be, how do I build the most amazing team versus like, let's just solve the problem of the day. So I would really just think about designing and building a great team. And then as a CEO, like people think, oh, the CEO is like solving every problem themselves. Like a lot of the time, like your goal is you need to motivate, inspire, hold people accountable, but mainly motivate and inspire all those people below you to execute.
Yeah, it's a really great point, and it's a hard thing to get right. And I sometimes think that, well, I know for a fact, like I've interviewed a few people on the show now, they've built companies to scale, and they've been very frank and said, look, we've literally had to replace the entire team multiple times because the team that you start with is not the team that you finish with.
I mean, 100%. Like, do you think the CTO for Amazon in 1997 is probably the same person you want as the CTO of Amazon today? Probably not. Like, that's another thing too. Business is so situational, and even the skills that like I have as an entrepreneur aren't necessarily the right skills for growing the business at a certain time. So I think honesty is incredibly important as well, knowing what you don't know, because you don't have to know everything. You can have weaknesses as long as you put good people in those roles where you're weak or where you don't know, you'll be fine. So that's another thing I think that, entrepreneurs really should take to heart as well.
Great stuff. So Ben, what is your advice to other entrepreneurs, founders, CEOs in terms of their relationship with failing or the importance of failing in business?
Well, I think failing is incredibly important. And I'll even change the question a little bit to advice you would give to would-be entrepreneurs. I know some people don't start a business because they're afraid to fail. And I think that's the total wrong way to look at it. And I know a lot of people, when they're thinking, should I do a startup? They think of it really rationally, like here's the benefits, here's the cost. When you're starting a business, you're never going to get there rationally. Like you have to take a leap of faith at some point, or else if it was obvious, everyone else would have started the business, right? So I think the first thing is, if you're thinking about starting a business, like you probably want to do it. So you should just do it. Like you're just going to have to take the leap. And then I would say for the people who are in there, just radical honesty with yourself, understanding your weaknesses, understanding that it's okay to fail. You'd rather fail fast, right? And get that feedback. And even if you do a startup and it doesn't work, guess what? It actually did work, because now you have this experience and this insight that you're going to use for your next thing to be successful. So I would say lean in and embrace failure.
It's 100% correct. I was having a coffee the other day with some friends of mine, and one of them's like family relatives is like, he's genuinely a billionaire. And when he was chatting to Aaron, and basically he said, look, you spend pretty much 20 years, like most entrepreneurs, they spend like their entire entrepreneurial career, like not being super rich, like generationally wealthy. Like they make some money and you make a couple million here and there, and maybe you buy a sports car and a nice home or whatever, but you don't become generationally wealthy. And he was making the point that it actually takes, to your point, a lot of failure. It takes a lot of what I call QBE, or you have to be qualified by experience, because there's no book that's going to teach you everything you need to know, right? So you have to go through this iterative process of failing and making mistakes and learning and losing a business, selling a business, building a bigger business, selling it again for more money. And so he was making the point that it's kind of like this very low wealthy generational story, and then all of a sudden you have this massive liquidity event. So this is the dream, right? But it happens much later. Another friend of mine was telling me, entrepreneur, he was doing some research into this. Most entrepreneurs become wealthy in their 50s.
Wow, 50s.
Mm-hmm. And you're a young guy, I can tell. So, if you get lucky, like before you're 30, like you're a real like anomaly amongst everybody else.
Yeah, I think you're right too. In school sort of makes you think that everything is linear, but almost nothing in life works like that. I mean, to your point, you could have blood, sweat, and tears for 8 years and then you don't even really start hitting it big for your last 2 years, and then you don't get that liquidity event till year 15. So I think people need to stick with it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the process is the reward.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Exactly. It's the journey, not the destination, right? So, Ben, do you recommend any books or tools or other resources to other CEOs that they should be using on their journeys?
My favorite book is Sapiens. It's not really a business book. It's more of a book about the history of humankind, but it basically, the whole theory behind the book is that humans evolved to sort of take over the earth because they were the only species that could tell stories and organize and have collective action. So I find it to be the most interesting book I've read. I don't know if it'll help you in business or not, but it's definitely fascinating. And I think more important than any one book is just the ability to want to learn, because that's what being an entrepreneur is. It's that constant feedback and evolving and pivoting from that feedback, taking another stab at it, getting that feedback. So I think, like, while Sapiens is a great book, the most important thing for any entrepreneur is to just dive in and want to learn, because like you said, you need to be qualified by experience. No book is fully going to get you there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And on that bombshell, it's time to end. Ben, thank you for being on the show, dude. Congratulations on all your success. I'm sure you're going to go places as an entrepreneur and as just a genuinely nice guy. So thanks for being on the show.
It was a blast. Thanks so much for having me on.
Anytime. Thanks, everybody.